We just want a party.
I want video. We need video. Why don't you want to record video? Come on. What's wrong with you? We need video. And I always say, yeah, next week, next week, next
I
week.
know.
And then this week, I set it up to record video. And you say, no video.
No video. I'm not ready.
I don't even know what you do with the video.
I don't know.
I know what you say you would do with the video,
Yeah.
but would you actually follow through with that?
What do you mean?
You would take the raw video of our full recording and chop it up into bits. You'd sync it because it would be two different files, and you'd export it in some kind of video editing software.
Well, I can do all those things.
But would you?
I would try.
So you say.
Or-
I mean, look.
Yeah.
We will record video in the future.
Yeah.
We will see what you do. And I will say, I told you so.
Okay.
I'm not above it. When you don't do anything with it,
You're
I'll
so
say,
mean.
I told you so.
Why aren't you supportive?
I'm realistic about these things.
Yeah, but I'm your friend.
Yeah, friends should speak honestly and openly
Well,
to one another.
yeah. Okay, openly and honestly doesn't mean cruel.
What, you think that's cruel?
Well,
What
like
was cruel
I don't
about
think
it?
you can do it. Because what it feels like you're saying is
That is not. I didn't say that you didn't have the capability of doing it. The drive is what I was attacking. Because I wouldn't look. It's nothing. It's not like I'm saying I'm so motivated.
Yeah.
I'd do it. My thought is fuck social media. It's a lot of fucking work to upkeep. Cutting these videos up is a decent amount of work.
I wouldn't do
it.
all the entire thing. I would find like a little highlight and put it up. But you're right, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, you still have to edit that.
Yeah.
So again, there's nothing cruel about what I said. It's not positioning myself as
You could be
superior by any
encouraging.
means. You can do it. Fucking create a poster
You can
with
do
Go
it.
Autumn, Go Autumn, Go.
Hang in there, baby.
Last time I created a poster was when I went to a WCW event.
Nice. What did it say? John 3:16?
No, I know there were plenty that had like Austin 3:16.
I don't understand what it means.
I'm not well versed enough in the Bible to really speak to it.
But why did it start? I don't get it.
I wish I could tell you the backstory of Austin 3:16.
I thought you would know since you were so into wrestling.
It was a weird time.
Yeah.
Meaning it was the Monday Night Wars, and some people would watch both Raw and Nitro.
Oh, I didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah, one was WWF at the time, and then the other was WCW, Nitro.
Oh.
And I followed WWF a bit. Obviously, there was Degeneration X with the fake Rage Against the Machine theme song.
Right. Hell yeah.
Shawn Michaels, Triple H. The crotch chop was created by the NWO, but then they made theirs an X. And I remember Stone Cold stunning Santa Claus in the ring.
What does that mean?
And this was
stunning
also
him?
it was his finishing move, the Stone Cold Stunner.
Oh.
And Santa was in the ring, and Austin came in and put this move on him and basically destroyed Santa Claus. And the crowd ate it up. And this was also the time when they call it the Attitude Era. Like women were in the ring, scantily clad, and their clothes would accidentally get ripped off. Yeah, China was there.
Okay.
But you had people like Trish Stratus. And who's the one who was with George Clooney for a while?
Oh, I have no
forget
idea.
what her name is. But their clothes would accidentally come off.
Oh, whoops.
It was like, oops, there's some boobs. So this was a totally different period.
Isn't it
of
weird
wrestling,
that doesn't, like, that's not exciting for women if it were reversed? Like, ooh, a ball popped out. Oh.
Yeah. I've thought about this often. That dudes are idiots when it comes to that. They think, I'll send a dick pic. She'll love it.
Yeah, don't send me
Yeah.
a dick pic ever.
I don't think she will. I don't think she'll be into that so much. I mean, maybe if you're in a relationship and, you know, I can understand with context and the feelings for the person, there could be a place and time for it, but dudes who send them unsolicited.
Well, that especially. I mean, that's just rude. But also, I think a woman would much rather see like the outline of a dick in pants, like in some sweatpants, versus the actual dick. You know what I mean? Like women are, it's like, I really liked softcore porn when I was much younger, you know, because it was like everything I needed without the aggressiveness, you know, of like actual meat.
Yeah.
Just easier to digest, you know?
Well, it feels like any dude who actually sends a dick pic, it's either giggled at
Oh, yeah.
or the woman is disgusted by it. I don't feel as though,
Not
again,
giggled,
unsolicited.
laughed at.
Yeah.
Giggle implies like kind of cute or I'm embarrassed
I don't
that I
know,
like
cute.
this.
To me,
you know.
To me, it's demeaning. The last thing I would want someone to do is like giggle.
Oh, but it could be like a like, oh, he sent it. Oh, look, it's so big. You know, instead of like, look at this fucking idiot. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna text it to all my girlfriends right now.
Yeah. This idea that dudes have, well, if a woman sent me a nude pic unsolicited, I'd love it. The inability to understand that it doesn't go both ways. I don't know why they can't grasp
Well, because so many men are so self-absorbed and have like no, or either are too lazy or just haven't thought of it to consider that a woman is different than them. And like, well, if I was making those sounds, I would want it harder and faster. It's like, no. Keep going.
Yes.
Do exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know better. I know better than you do.
Yeah.
What you like. It's like dudes who get offended if, if a woman does tell them to do something a different way. It's like, what? Or if they ask to bring in a vibrator or something.
Yeah.
What? I'm not good enough. Who fucking gives a shit? They're getting off at the end of the day and they enjoyed it. That's all good for you.
Well, I know. So like I always say I'm listening to old love lines on like classic love lines. They're from either the 90s or like the early 2000s.
I know. And I'm always saying you're right wing.
Right.
Alt-right, listening to Corolla and
Dr.
Drew.
Yeah. There are people, men and women, that call in. And sometimes they're way too old to be thinking this way. Or maybe it was just a sign of the times that they would say, like, I can achieve orgasm during foreplay, but during sex, I can't. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, how can I make this happen? And first of all, they have to tell them that it's normal and that a very small percentage of women can have an orgasm straight from vaginal sex. And then, bring in a toy or something. Like, what? Like, I don't know if it's embarrassing or when you're in your 30s. I mean, I understand when you're young, you know, people call these things and they're kids, you know, and or like early 20s and they just don't know, you know. But when you're way more mature, I don't understand. Like, what are you talking about? How do you not know that so many women don't have orgasms that way? It's like, what's wrong with me? It's all a lot of women are, what's wrong with me? Like, he can't come. What's wrong with me? Like, are you fucking nuts? It has nothing to do with you.
Women run with that, though. Look, there's times when the pressure is mounting or there's a distraction and it's like, I've lost it. You know, it's gone. The boner's gone. I don't know what to do now. And I feel as though women take that very personally. It's like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with you. And I get it. It's like, well, I'm naked in front of you. Why isn't
And you're a man. You're
enough?
supposed to be just an animal who would fuck a hole in the ground.
It's like, well, I'm sorry. Listening to those children play in the backyard. It's going to taking me out of it.
Is that a real story that you've heard children playing and you're like, oh, God.
I mean, look, there's many things that go into it. Some days that wouldn't be an issue. Other days it certainly could be. It depends on mindset. mood. There's times that there's been pressure. It's like, I'm just feeling pressure. I've got to do this now. And then it's like, well, I've talked myself out of it. Once you cross a certain threshold, it's like, you're not getting back. You got to take a break. It's like, look, let's just reconvene in like 30 minutes because right now I've crossed that line and my brain is in a different spot. And now I'm just trying way too hard. And people will take that personally. On the flip side, I guess because women can't necessarily have that same problem. I mean, there's the equivalent is what? It's like, I'm just not.
Women have that problem constantly, and that's why they fake orgasms.
No, I know that, but I'm saying a woman can still go like a guy who's having issues can't have sex. A woman who's maybe having issues, maybe it's not there's not enough lubrication or something. It's like, wow, we're still going to go through with this. The guy can just push through. I'm not saying that they should if the woman says no, but I'm saying that I feel like a lot of
women won't speak up.
Still say okay
and say like, I'm just not into this.
So the equivalent is something
instead,
like that.
I'm just gonna fake it, and you'll pretend. We'll all pretend.
The equivalent is something I feel like is, well, I'm not really, it's not enough lubrication. So, we'll fix that. So sex can still happen. So a dude's not really faced with an instance of a woman not physically being able to have sex. So I it is all placed on themselves in that what we were talking about earlier. Well, if I can't get her off just myself and we need additional help, then there's something wrong with me and I'm not a man and she's going to go
and she's like a slut
at me. She's going to, well, yes, there's that demeaning of women when a dude doesn't feel good. Well, she's a fucking
she brought a vibrator, that fucking slut.
But this idea that's like, well, she'll go tell everyone. And maybe if something really embarrassing happens, she will go run and tell. You can speak to this more than I can, but I feel like a woman would be more inclined to go make fun of a dude who just pounded it home than one who took the time to get her off in ways that didn't include ramrodding.
Oh, hell yeah.
So why this exists with guys?
Because I really dislike how I talk about when I say men as an umbrella term for men, because I do know so many men that aren't necessarily the way I speak about men, but I mean,
there's a higher percentage that are like this.
Yeah. I guess I don't really curate friendships with men who I would be talking about like that, but I am referring to men that I know when I say stuff about men that are shitty, and I don't like that because it would be the same way. I think about the same way, like we've really leaned into this misandrist sort of mindset and how it's okay, where if men were speaking the same way about women, which they have in the past and still do, but to a lesser extent, that's really fucked up and not okay. But we're all shitting on men all the time about them being not as smart and not as capable and like little babies. I don't know if it's really a good thing ultimately.
You can make the argument it's never a good thing to mass label groups of people, since there are intricacies and nuances and totally different personality types within there. But you can draw some basic conclusions that rest on higher percentages.
True. I mean, to me, I don't necessarily prejudge someone just based on them being a man, let's say. But when they behave a certain way, I'm like, fuck, because they're a fucking man. It's the same thing I feel about like boomers. I don't judge every boomer, and I don't expect every boomer to be, little babies. But then when they act like that, I'm like, because they're fucking boomers,
I judge them all. They ate up all the resources. They took all the money. They got the positions of power and won't give them up. I blame them all for everything.
Well, individually, I would, but not everybody.
the last generation to do better than their parents. Now we're on the flip side.
Could they all just get out of politics? Could you please just everybody take a step down? So we get some new
No.
blood.
This is there was an article, a profile on Mitt Romney's time in the Senate. It was The Atlantic, I think. And it's pretty fucked up. As I'm reading this, I'm thinking about how Mitt Romney took it seriously. Well, they're making the case. I'm not thinking about it, but I'm thinking about the fact that he took it seriously before he would say things, before he would vote on things, any decisions. He would take notes and weigh options. And to him, having that power was something that was to be respected. Right. It's like, wow, I'm in this spot and I need to take this seriously. And just clear as day spelled out that nobody else, very few people, not nobody, but very few people approach it the same way. They do not give a shit. It is all about their celebrity and the power and the money, which is of no surprise. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking like, my God, fucking Mitt Romney is like the beacon of ethics at this point. It's like, what? Not that he was ever a bad guy, but
no, but if you disagree with him politically, you know.
Yeah, it's like politically, I don't necessarily agree with him on a lot of things, but I can appreciate the fact that he drew those conclusions after thought.
Right.
And
absolutely, that's respectful. That's you respect the position, you respect your position of power, and even if I disagree with you, I'll fight for your right to say, whatever, like I'll defend it because at least he's doing something that he believes in.
One of the things he said was maybe it's important for people to step aside some point as they age. It's like, just look, we're getting older. It is time to step aside. Why don't more people? But why doesn't Mitch McConnell, who is obviously having mental issues, step aside? You can make the same argument about Biden.
Absolutely.
I know that you don't know what the actual state of his mind is. It is hard to tell. People get older, they get slower. Doesn't mean necessarily that they're not sharp, but the way he speaks, you can say that, oh, well, it's the stutter. But it's like, no, it's more than the stutter. He's losing his train of thought. I know there's just always these excuses in place, but boiling it down to Biden, if I were Biden, I may think, I am pretty old. And am I really best suited for this job? I got to do it for 4 years. That's cool. Maybe I should step aside.
There's just so much to be said for being out of touch when you're supposed to represent the people. And when you've ascended into power, I mean, there's already going to be a loss of touch, connection with the daily lives of people once you've, like I said, ascended to this powerful position. But then once you've been in politics for so long, you're even more removed, not just from the day-to-day life of people, but how people function in the world with technology changing, not understanding how people have changed in how they think or how they behave. And so what they have to do is rely on the people around them who are just going to manipulate, possibly, right? To say, well, this tests well, or this is what the kids are saying, which is done by, I don't know, maybe like not like an inauthentic way of finding out what's going on with actual people.
You're right. We need a TikTok star president. Yeah. That's what we need. Someone who's in
girlies.
tune.
Hey, sisters.
I can't wait for that day. It'll happen at some point. I know,
yassifying the government. Let's go, bitch.
It's disgusting. Yes, and any president has people around them who are pushing their own agendas. The idea is, we're all aligned though, so it's okay because we all believe in the same things. But someone like Biden, surely you can get away with more because he probably is leaning on these people much more than presidents previously have.
Well, I know, like, wasn't there some video of George Bush, the senior one, that like he was really confused at like the grocery store, or maybe that was just normal. I can't remember. It was like the scanner, which I guess had been around for a really long time at the time, and he was really confused by it. It's because he hadn't been in a grocery store in a billion years.
Supermarket scanner moment. It's a political gaffe in which a politician is portrayed as elite and out of touch with everyday affairs. George H.W. Bush was amazed by a
is that the older one or the younger
barcode. H.W. is the older. Okay. Herbert Walker. A-Bear.
Uber.
Bear Walker. Yeah, he was amazed with the barcode scanner.
Right. But how long had it been around at the time?
Probably for quite a while. It's like going and seeing the credit card. You can tap now? What happened to the old clunky machine with the carbon paper?
Right.
Wow.
The chunk.
Yeah. No clue that there was a world in between where you had to swipe and then you had to use the chip. We were always behind in that too. When I was in London, the people would get annoyed. Like, American card. You have to swipe and you have to sign. Which the signing is ridiculous. It's not a security measure.
Sure isn't.
Nobody's comparing it. And people don't even sign it with their real signatures half the times. They just scribble.
I used to draw a cat.
It's dumb. It's outdated. And I feel like there are fewer places that actually require that still. But once we actually moved to the chip here, and I went back to London, I was excited. I said, I got my chip card. This is going to be amazing because they were using the chip at the time. And they were already tapping. I'm like, oh my God, a chip card. And you have to sign. It was still the signing existed.
Ever since you talked about that, I really embraced the tapping. So now not only do I always tap, but I use my Apple thing. Like I double click on my little side button and use my phone. I feel even cooler.
I do too. I don't feel cooler.
I'm like, I'm so far I'm living in the future.
I'm embarrassed. No, I'm embarrassed to have to use the phone because it just ties you to the phone. Another thing that ties you to the phone.
I just think I feel like it's so futuristic and cool. I do it.
You're never going to get rid of it. I mean, I guess it'll integrate into your palm.
Right. My thumb.
We're already there. The Whole Foods or something, you can use your palm.
How?
They scan it and they've got it in the system and you tie your payment to that. And when you check out, you just scan your hand. It's not at every Whole Foods, but it's something that they are testing. And
I'll never know because I never go to Whole Foods.
They pay with their Apple Watch. I'm going to tap my watch.
Well, that seems really like Star Trek-y to me.
It's the same, obviously the same.
Oh, I know, but for some reason it being small and on your wrist versus like a phone still feels like you're taking something out to use purposefully to pay for something, where it being on your wrist just feels like bloop. Feels like Star Trek.
We'll get the face scanning, just like Delta does on some flights. You don't even need your boarding pass. Just walk up. The camera knows who you are.
I like that.
I like it to an extent. It is, look, it's convenient. When you're entering I think Atlanta actually has this, or at least tested it out. If you're flying Delta and when you're entering security, it will also scan your face. And there's a board above hanging from the ceiling that you can only see from a specific angle. So even a person like a step behind you can't read it. Kind of like those stoplights that have the weird things where if you're off to the side, you can't see what color it is for whatever reason. So you don't jump the gun, or I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason that exists. But reading your face, it'll tell you where your gate is. So you're walking into security and read your face and you can glance up and it'll have your name and it'll tell you what gate to go to, and other people can't see it.
I haven't seen that.
It's just this all lives somewhere. But at this point, it's already out. My face is in databases. So because of that, may as well embrace it. I'm not putting the cat back into the can. I know it's bag. I confused worms and cat in the bag on purpose because I thought it would be funny.
I'm not putting the rocks back in the bush from my fist.
I mean, Madison Square Garden is employing that technology where lawyers who work for firms that are somehow tied up in lawsuits with the company and the owner of Madison Square Garden are rejected from coming in.
Whoa.
They're stopped. Like, nope, you're not allowed in. There's a policy that, you're involved in a case against us. And I guess legally that is some kind of conflict. The person shouldn't be consuming the products of the company that they're tied up in a lawsuit. It feels illegal, but it's happening. And it's been upheld, at least to
I saw
point.
On Reddit about people stealing at self-checkout and how, obviously so many people do it. And there was a lawyer that said that they represent a bunch of people that were stealing from, like Targets or grocery stores. and AI was using technology to remember their faces and tallying up how much they've stolen over time. And once once it raises to a certain amount, then they prosecute.
The felony amount. Target apparently does.
Is it 500?
I feel like it's 600.
Because I'm just trying to add up my own stealing.
You should be careful. It's naive to think that people don't know, like even people at the store don't know that this is going on. They've known. I think a lot of places they don't care.
Well, the employees can't do anything.
Grocery store.
If they see it.
I guess if they see it, they can come up and confront you. But if you challenge them, they're not going to do it. Like, okay.
They have to have proof.
They're not being asked to put their lives on the line to save some product for a corporation. But people are really leaning into that these days. That's why they just walk out blatantly. They go into a Rite Aid blatantly with a bag and throw a bunch of shit in it and look at the employees and say, what are you going to do?
Nothing. They know.
And they just walk out.
That shouldn't be allowed.
There was a Target in Upper Manhattan that just shut down because there was so much theft.
That type of theft where people just walk in and take it and leave?
Yeah. They said, we're done. We're shutting this store down. It's not worth it. And now when you go, it's all locked up. If you want deodorant, if you want laundry detergent, you have to press the button and wait for someone to come over to unlock the case for you. At that point, I guess you could still just walk out with it. They're not going to stop you.
Right.
But I guess the idea is you're not grabbing a bunch. You're not filling a bag and then going and selling it on the Lower East Side for $3, meaning the laundry detergent, or $1 for deodorant. And this just drives people to Amazon. I just bought toothpaste on Amazon because I went to the store and it was locked up. Also, the price, like one tube of fucking toothpaste is $6, $6.50. On Amazon, you get 3 for the same price. And it comes in the next day, and you give Bezos more money, and you hate yourself as that guy reaps all the fucking benefits, and as local communities are destroyed because brick and mortar stores are closing up because of theft and high prices. It's like,
well, they're not. No, mom and pop places aren't being closed because of theft and high prices. They're being closed because of big stores
and rent.
Right. Oh my God.
The cost.
Did you listen to the person on the radio show that we're on that talks about finance?
You don't need to dance around the issue. The von Hessler doctrine, and I didn't listen.
Okay.
I didn't listen. Wes Moss, you're talking about. I assume.
He keeps saying like everything by the numbers is better. Things are improving.
Maybe he's right, but also perception is reality.
Yeah. Are you fucking nuts? People's salaries, like every company is pleading poverty, crying poverty to people who are asking for cost of living raises, and then rent is skyrocketing. No one can afford it. Like talking about like, well, the whatever the percentages, what is it called? The interest rates are going down, so people are just going to be able to afford. No, they're not. Nobody can save up enough money for a down payment because down payments are insane. Like this old standard of how much you have to put down, 20% on a house.
Well, you could take out the loan. You could take out the 20% loan and then have 2 loans, a mortgage.
Yeah, okay.
20% loan, which I sadly did back in 2008.
I don't think they allow you to do that anymore.
Not in 2008. That was when it all collapsed.
Before that.
I did it in 2005. Yeah. The interest only 80-20, no money down. Yeah, sounds like a great deal.
You can't do that now. I always say still have to like 3%. I think is the minimum, and people hate it. And it like has to come with like special loans. They're FHA, whatever the fuck.
Well, you were looking at buying more recently than I was, so I always say with that though, I chose to do it ultimately, so it is on me. It's shitty they were offering it to so many people because it is preying on people have the American dream. The idea is home ownership. It's also the way people in the past, at least historically, built their wealth. You invest in the home gains value. Yes, you're putting money towards it, but it's really just like moving. People know how it works.
Well, and I love the idea of like, you own it. You own the home. No, you fucking don't. You don't own shit.
At some point,
at some point, 30 years from now.
Yes, but that's least you're working
And you can
towards
borrow
owning
against it too.
At least you're working towards owning it. Where in renting, you're never going to own it. So yes, I agree with what you're saying. You don't own it at the
I just don't like the attitude
time.
about it, where it's like, I own my home.
It's like, well, the moment you miss a few payments, now the
Yeah,
bank
you're
comes
dead.
and
Bye.
takes it back.
What about all the money you
It's
put
like,
in?
that's our home.
That's it.
It's our home,
Right.
actually, and you are giving us the money until you're not. And
That's right. You don't
see
own
ya.
shit.
Onto the street. But eventually, at some point, you
Yes.
would own it. With the interest only, it ballooned. It was a balloon payment after 10 years, meaning I owed all the principal after 10 years, and I had paid down 0% of it because all the money was going to interest. Look, my idea with that house in Cabbagetown was to
Mhm.
sell it. I wanted to move to New York. I was like, I'll buy
When you
this.
first bought it, that was your plan? Huh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I wanted to move to New York since like 2002, but I got the radio job, 99X, and it was like, wow, this is a good job. It's hard to get this kind of job, so it just kind of delayed everything. But the plan was to look. I didn't do any research into the market. I'm sure just looking into things, I'm sure there were plenty of people who knew that it's like, oh, these mortgages are shady. Was there, how much, information was there that everything was going to collapse in 2005, meaning in 2008? How much information in 2005 existed with signs pointing to collapse in the future? I don't know. There's got to be something, but maybe there wasn't.
It was a lot of people taking advantage of something.
Yes.
And I don't mean as in
but
in a sinister way. They're just taking advantage of this opportunity or this thing that's happening. So we're going to take advantage. Everyone's going to make money, or everyone's going to get the thing that they want, until it all fell apart.
I realized what I was signing was shit.
You did?
But again, I was like, this is ridiculous. One, I shouldn't even be getting this mortgage because I'm making $38,000.
But then it's like, well, they're going to give it to me, so I'm going to take it. The
house was $192,500, which in Cabbagetown now, God knows what it's worth. It obviously was old and needed some work, but it was on Carroll Street, one of the townhomes. I think there's enough demand for it. Sure, some people don't want to live on the main commercial street, but there's enough people who do.
Yeah.
And my idea was, okay, that's a pretty good price. I know this neighborhood is getting hot, or whatever the fuck you want to say.
Up and coming.
I'll live here for a few years and I'll sell the house and move to New York in January. No, I can't get my months. December of 2007, and then everything collapsed like right after that, and I couldn't sell the house. So then I just held on to it, and then the values plummeted, and it's kind of pointless. It's like, now I have this thing, and my plan fell apart, and I shouldn't even try to sell it. That's what was pointless, is trying to sell it. So then I just rented it for what I paid on the mortgage, and eventually, when that balloon payment came due, instead of refinancing because I was freelancing and not making much money and nobody would have given me a new mortgage, I sold it to a friend who now reaps all the benefits.
Was it 205?
No, it was 223.
Oh,
223 Carroll Street. Why are you going to look up the value
Yeah, it's
now?
all like...
Tell me what it's worth.
Yeah.
600,000, 500,000.
Well, hold on. 223. Where are you?
Nothing like searching in the middle of the show.
Yeah. Oh, 224? 223. 453,600.
It's maybe not as much as I thought, but still compared to 192.
Yeah, it's a lot. When was it sold?
Yeah. I sold it almost 10 years ago already,
But somebody else...
2014.
Oh.
No, she's still living there. She still lives there. And there was some program where if you're a first-time home buyer and you're buying in Cabbagetown, the city gave you like $60,000. What the fuck? Because I ended up selling it for only $197.
Damn.
So, yeah, good for her.
No, 20. Wait, hold on.
Good for her.
She tried to sell it. Okay, so you sold it for $192.
No, I sold it for like $197.
Okay, because it says in 2005 sold for $192.
Yeah, that's when I bought it.
Oh, and then 2010.
I tried to sell it.
Okay, for $219.
Yeah, I was asking. They're like, nah. Even the realtor's like, no. I was like, yes, I think so.
Okay, and then 2014, $195. It says it sold.
Yeah, maybe it was 195. I don't remember. I thought it was 197.
Well, there you
whatever.
go.
Doesn't matter at
Curious.
that point. Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, but now the Zestimate on Zillow is $453.5.
There was one point when some people came to look at the house when it was for sale, and I happened to be in town, and I met them, and I walked around, and we went to the back deck, which, if you remember that house, there was...
I don't think I ever went inside it.
Well, the parking was behind. Right. There was like a unofficial street behind all those houses, and every house had their parking back there. It wasn't paved. It was rocks. It's nice gravel though, if I remember.
Yeah, little pebbles.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're standing out there, and then like the neighbor comes up. He's like, "Be careful! There's been break-ins, cars back here." I was like, "Oh, thanks."
Oh my god!
Thanks.
Fuck you, dude.
Fucking idiot. I mean, I guess he didn't know, and he was trying to be nice, but
yeah, but he could tell like there's some strangers.
Never heard from those people.
Yeah, I bet.
Again. And the truth is, my roommate at the time, her friend was coming to stay with us for 2 weeks as she was in between apartments, and she was unloading a few things into the house. I was at work at 99X, working the night shift, and I got a call. One, she left the keys in this Ford F-150 she had. But as she was loading things into the house, somebody jumped into the car and stole it.
Whoa! So she was only gone from the car for like moments?
I mean, I guess someone was probably, who knows the way it went down. Were they sitting there watching, seeing them go back and forth? But yes, they went in the house to bring some things in, and the person sprinted in and stole the car.
These single family homes in Crofton are like 500,000 plus. This one's a 5-bedroom. It's a standalone. It's $828,000.
Yeah, you're never going to afford that. No one's affording anything.
I can't afford shit.
No one is going to afford anything.
And I really don't care necessarily. Like the only thing that I think about is having an extra bedroom for the kids, because we're in a 2-bedroom, and eventually they're going to need some more space between each other. Especially when they're like teenagers or something. And then also now that I have baby, he loves running outside and not being on a leash. And I would love to just let him fuck around outside and run. But can't do that here.
No, you cannot do that.
I do let him sometimes. He comes back.
You'll be fined for that.
Don't find me. I don't give a shit.
I'm looking at my neighbor's house, the one that was attached. Now this is really devolved into a boring show. I'm looking at Zillow.
Call in. Where do you live? We'll look you up.
Did they sell it? I can't.
See, there's townhomes here that are like 3 in the 3s, but they're still just fuck it. What's 20% of 350? 70.
Well, 20%. Yeah, 20% of 100,000, 20,000. So 60,000 for 300,000.
Yeah, 70. So what does that mean? You need a down payment of $70,000. Is that what they're saying? Holy fuck! That is impossible. Who has $70K?
Then you got to factor in the insurance, and you have to factor in the taxes.
Oh my god! And if I can't afford a standalone, so yeah, that's the HOA that does fucking shit, except bark at you because you left a ball on your stoop.
Hey, some people get power. Some plebes who are so desperate for power get it through the homeowners association. They finally get to a spot where they can enact their will on other people. And they skim the money off the top.
I mean, even if you bought this house, $660,000, it's $4,000 a month. Okay, listen. I could be pushed to be able to spend $2,000 a month. So then if I had a partner and they could also afford $2,000, then okay. I guess we could make this happen.
Yes, you need dual income, but the days of easily
Right.
paying for a home in a place like Crofton, Maryland. I'm not saying it's a
No, I
shithole
know.
by any means. It's nice. Yeah, it's a nice suburb, but the fact that home ownership across the board, I feel like we did a show on this not too long ago, but it seems inaccessible, but obviously there are people paying it. So if people weren't paying it, the prices would come down. Sure, there's some asshole landlords who or homeowners who won't budge. Like, nope, that's my price, and they wouldn't bring it down. But they probably just remove it from the market at that point and sit and wait. But there are people who need to sell houses, and if they weren't getting what they were asking, then the price would come down, and it's not. So despite every single person that you talk to saying, I don't know how anyone affords anything, somewhere out there, there are people who are paying it. There are assholes who, like here in New York, not even just buying, renting, especially after COVID settled down and people came back to the city after they fled it like fucking dicks who shouldn't be allowed back into the city.
Dicks.
But then they came back with a vengeance and bidding wars for fucking rentals. You apply, you get the message from the realtor, you're one of the top 2 applicants. Now give us your biggest and best offer. And the 3 times that happened to me, I said, no, the offer I give you is the offer that was listed. And I knew I would lose the apartment at that point, but fuck them. I'm not playing that game. Some idiot on the other side surely did play that game. And then they got to the point where they proactively did it. They would show up to showings and say, I'll give you $600 more a month. Tell the landlord that before they even applied. Fuck you. Even if you have the money, is that a wise way to spend the money on an apartment that was listed at $2,700 a month? You're offering $3,500. You're driving up the whole fucking market because you're so desperate to get the apartment and you have the means to do it, instead of looking at maybe what the smart thing to do is and saying, you know what? This isn't worth all this money. But people are so fucking stupid. I got to be the one.
Yeah, they kind of want to win. And then you do kind of, once you look at a place and you kind of, you want it to be yours so badly, it's more about winning at that point than like finding the right place that includes the metric of how much it costs.
You jump to you see a place you like and you automatically envision yourself living there. It's the same thing when you buy a lottery ticket. Yeah. You know you're probably not going to win, but you start thinking about, who will I give the money to, and what will I buy, and what will I do with the money? And to me, with a lottery ticket, at least, that's what you're paying for. It's like, all right, let me just have a fucking fantasy for a night. It's worth. That's how I feel about gambling, like at the
casino. I'm like, I'm not here. Like, if I win stuff, that's a bonus. I'm willing to pay this much to have this time here.
People know you get attached though with the homes. You
give us your best and biggest offer. Did they really say the words like that? God, yes. That's kind of ballsy and fucked up.
There was one place where they had the agent had said they're thinking about putting a stackable washer and dryer in, and that was one of the apartments where they asked for the biggest and best offer. And I said, okay, and I did some math about what the price of laundry would cost going out of house, like to a laundromat, especially if you don't do it yourself and you just send it in for a wash and fold, what that would cost. And I said, okay, well, you take that, you factor that in, and then this would be a savings because you wouldn't have to do that anymore. So I could just pretend that there's no savings and add that cost on. And that's what I would do if they put the washer and dryer and if they promise to do that, which again, immediately, these landlords don't like having terms dictated to them. How dare you, you renter? How dare you dictate terms to me? I'm the one with the power here. And who fucking knows what the person paid? I wish I could see what they ended up paying.
Can't you see it on
apartment.
Zillow?
No, I don't think you can. Street Easy is that's one of the big sites here in New York, but what it usually shows is what it was listed for, and then it'll say rented, but it doesn't show like the cost that was negotiated.
Oh, okay.
Whatever the people settled on. So I'd be curious. And those people, and the apartment honestly wasn't that good. I liked it, but I also, it's weird. I don't even know why I applied ultimately, because in the back of my mind, it's like, well, it's nice, but it's kind of small. It's a 2-bedroom, which is cool. And a 2-bedroom would
Mm-hmm.
be nice. That was about the extent of my thought. And then
Well, you try
outside of
something,
that,
right? You're like, well, especially once maybe at first you're more discerning, but then once you are really looking, you're starting to cast a wider and wider net. So I'm sure you're just like, well, I'll try this.
well, you do get to the point where it's like, I got to find a place, and the competition
Right.
kicks in.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I applied, and it's kind of a game at that point. Will I get it? Will it be mine? Will I lose out? I mean, there was one landlord, we had to have an interview with him. And it's probably an apartment that wouldn't have been so great to live in with
Yeah.
2 people. It was cool. It had a lot of old fixtures, like the crown molding and shit
Mhm.
like that. Had a stained glass window. It had an
Ooh.
outdoor deck space, but the layout didn't offer much privacy. And I was charmed by the place. Like, even just walking into the building, it was really beautiful.
So then you liked it.
And like it was like an old brownstone in
Oh,
Park
that's
Slope.
nice.
And it's like, ah, this is nice. But then we had to meet with the landlord and sit there, and he interviewed us. And the truth is, I wanted to get the apartment, and I was bummed when we
Yeah.
didn't. But you look back on it and you think, I dodged a bullet. One, the layout wasn't the best, didn't offer much privacy, and a landlord who lives close enough and is that involved is probably not a landlord you
Right.
want, because they're going to be in your business all the time. Whereas my landlord now lives in the front building, but he apologizes when his kids want to have their birthday party in the
Oh.
courtyard area in the grass. I'm like, hey, it's your place.
Oh,
I don't give a
yeah.
shit. Have a party.
That's sweet.
But he tries to respect people's
Yeah,
privacy.
it's thoughtful.
Where this guy's like, I grew up in this building. I was like, oh, okay, it's your childhood
Okay.
home. That should be a fucking huge red flag. It's like, I don't want to live here, because my childhood home, I moved, but we still have it in the family, and I am the person tasked with maintaining it. And it's like, he's probably there every fucking day doing unannounced
You're
tours
right.
to make sure you're taking care
Hi.
of the fucking place.
Hello. Comes in. Hello. Hi.
But your mind
there's
changes.
some pest control I need to work on in here.
Something changes in your mind, though. Does it become competitive, or you start, you are taken with certain aspects? And that huge glaring red flag right in my face, the fact that he called us in for a sit-down interview at the real estate agent's office.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
fuck
could
you.
imagine that if you were renting a part of a, you know what I mean, like a wing of a house or something. Because it's like, oh, you're living in my space. However, you can't treat somebody like they're either a tenant or they're not.
There was a really, really giant, nice apartment like that, meaning
Like you could rent a
it
space
was
in it.
private. It was private to the extent it was the whole top floor of this
Uh-huh.
building, another brownstone, and there were 2 bedrooms, but like a dining room, a living room. It was just huge. And when you went into these rooms, you could close the doors and lock them, but there was technically no front door. And the rest of the
you
building,
mean like no private front door?
there's a front door to the
Right.
building, but the owners lived on the first floor and had like space on the second floor, and they had their own front door within the building, so they were in a self-contained
Oh.
apartment. And they, the agents pushing, it's like, well, they're not ever going to come up here, but it's like, but they could.
Right.
They could come up, and there's no front door to this place. Like, I could go in my bedroom and lock that, but them just leaving the house, for example, if your doors were, you would hear them because it's open. I know, maybe it's hard to
No, I
grasp.
get it.
There's no
I get it.
fucking front door to the
Yeah.
apartment. It was just a bunch of rooms on the top floor, which was huge and priced reasonably because of that, because who wants to live like that? They were having real trouble renting it out before, I guess, a single mom and her son lived there. And
That makes
you know,
sense.
if the landlord who lives there isn't nosy, I see how it could work. But for me, it's like, nah, I want space. I need to have like my literal private space that you can't just come waltzing into. Very strange. And they didn't seem interested in talking to anyone. They just wanted to rent it, even though
Even though they're
even though
way closer.
yeah, my childhood home.
I need you to take care of it like I would. There's this
Couldn't
place.
deal
There's
with it.
it's $2,600 a month renting. I can't afford that by myself.
Yeah. No, what's your salary? Your salary is like the average.
Yeah. It's a yeah.
The average salary doesn't get people shit.
Yeah. It's a really high salary, I feel.
I don't know how anyone fucking survives. I really do not.
It would be $1,300 a paycheck. I'd have to put aside just for rent.
Yeah, it's probably most of your paycheck.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be that's like how much I put aside every paycheck for everything. You know, every time I get paid. Includes like saving for rent, for all of the subscription things I have, for cell phone, for
It's not feasible. No. In New York, what is the percentage you're not supposed to go above for housing?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if it's 20%,
something.
30%. 30 even seems high.
Housing costs?
In New York, obviously the cost of living, housing is higher, and that percentage was always higher. You could make arguments. Granted, I have a car now, but it's like, well, I offset some of the costs because I don't have a car. I'm not paying for the maintenance or the insurance or the gas. No payments on the car. So a little higher cost of living for my housing is okay. But my last apartment, even when I rented it, it was $1,800. It stayed $1,800 the whole time I lived there, but I started with a $75,000 a year salary, and I feel like it was one whole paycheck, so like 50% of my pay, or maybe almost the one whole paycheck, and then I was like an extra $200. I think that's what it was. One paycheck, and then I had like an extra $250 on that paycheck after taxes, and then another paycheck would come in that I had to use for the rest of the expenses. And I could make it work. I wasn't saving too much, but it fucking sucks when most of your paycheck goes to rent, to housing. It's like, oh, fuck, because you get this, and you're like, oh, all this money. Oh, no, just kidding. Sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do eventually once the kids really do need their separate space. Like,
you're going to move into the
living room.
I
thought about like, maybe I could make something happen in the dining room and like somehow wall that off and make it some kind of room for Pete. I don't know.
That's what people end up doing. The fact that you even have a dining room to possibly do that in is a thing. I've seen families in studio apartments with 2 bunk beds, a mom with 3 kids. Sure. I don't know how they do it.
I mean, just having a boy in it, like if it was 2 girls, I'd just like, you guys just gonna have to fight it out in the same room forever. But a boy and a girl, and I mean, my parents live very close. Their dad lives really close. Maybe it won't be too much of an issue. You know, like they have their separate rooms at Travis's, so maybe just here they won't have separate space. And
well, at some point they'll say, I don't want to sleep over there. I'm just going to go to my room. They'll come hang out. And then when it's time when they're teenagers, and they'll go walk back.
I mean, and I'm fine with that. As long as we spend quality time together. It doesn't necessarily, neither Travis nor I care about, like, we're not like counting the days and like, this is 50%, this is 48%. It's fine. They can just exist. So maybe it won't be a big deal. And I'll just rent forever.
Find some rich dude.
Find a rich dude?
Find a rich dude. Or just find someone who has money and you can split the costs.
Oh, like he would pay for my place?
No, I just mean, everyone says find a rich person, but you could find a person who has a normal job and then you combine the salaries.
Oh,
and then
yeah. But then we'd have to live together.
Sure.
Which, I mean,
maybe at some point.
It's so hard once you've lived alone. Like, oh no.
Look, I lived alone for a very long time.
But you never. Well, okay, yeah, I know. I just wonder if it's different from never having lived with someone and then living with someone versus living with someone and then going to your own space and like spreading out and being like, oh, I don't know if I can give this up.
Well, you never experienced it. You had never had the opportunity.
I did for like 6
experience
months, which I loved.
glory.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
glory of
JK,
living alone.
let's move in with Trey Ray. But then I got to live in Zoffieville, which was an opportunity I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't go back and stay just for.
Could have lived there alone. Rent there was like $500.
Ugh, it was less than that. Oh no, you're yeah, you're right. You're right.
You didn't need to live with someone to live in Zoffieville.
It was $625 a month when Travis and I first were there, and then because we had Ellie, Zoffi kicked out this guy that was like just kind of squatting in the weird bottom part of the house next door. Kicked him out, put in washers and dryers in there for our baby, and then we paid $725 instead.
That's nice. And then he sold the property on 13th Street in Midtown Atlanta for God knows.
Now,
all because he was right place, right time, and could buy a shit. Look, there were many years, I'm sure, decades of like, what the fuck? I have this apartment. But if you're willing to put in the time, well, it doesn't exist anymore. But there was a time when you could buy in a neighborhood. I don't even know what Midtown was like in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you buy an apartment complex on 13th Street in Midtown Atlanta for, I don't know what he paid. I have to assume it was like a couple $100,000 at most. Which you're trying to do research on this.
Yeah.
You also have to, figure out what the spending power of that was.
Right, yeah.
1980 or something.
Yeah.
But, there was all these brownstones that people sell for millions and millions now. And their stories, it's like, man, you couldn't get people to buy them in Park Slope, which is a very nice neighborhood. And when they were buying them for like $20,000, $30,000 in the late 70s. And it's like, okay, sure. If you do some math, then that puts it up to like a few $100,000, but it's totally worth the investment when you could now sell it for a few $1 million.
Well, isn't it? I was saying that in Baltimore, you pass by all these dilapidated townhomes, and you can buy them for like $10,000. And I was like, what if I just bought one and I would just sit on it? And then somebody told me that's what all the rich assholes are doing. And that's why they stay dilapidated, because they're just buying them for an investment that one day, someone will come and tear them all down, and they'll get the money for it.
That's shitty.
Yeah. But I was like, that was my idea.
I feel like
not saying I'm the
should...
first. I'm saying that like I had the shitty idea also.
I think it's shitty if you want to buy it just to sit on it and leave it dilapidated.
Yeah. Which is what I would do.
I like the idea of getting something. It's like, all right, and I got to fix this up, and I want to help rehabilitate this neighborhood and make it a nice place again. But people who contribute to those neighborhoods that are just boarded up,
oh, it's so
crumbling.
sad.
Fuck you.
Well, once he told me that, I was like, oh. So it's not like I would once you know that, you should say, oh, okay, then I shouldn't do that. Versus like, fuck it, I don't care. Fuck these people.
That is a shitty thing to do. I have to go. I just got an alert for a meeting in 1 minute. I guess I knew that was happening. Did I know that was happening? That's fine.
We're at like an hour.
Here's the this time and place of the show will be known as the mobile phone theme days or something.
Okay.
There's got to be a better name. When people talk about this show and they break it down and analyze it, they'll be like, yeah, there was that stretch in late 2023 where no intro music would come in, and when the intro was played off of a phone.
Man,
I don't know what was going on
Greg's,
then.
Mic was poor. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. I hope you live in a house that you love. Love you. Bye.
Quick fade.